Disc bulges and herniation. So I've put these two together because basically a herniation is a progression from a bulge. So when we get a bulge, we need to understand the mechanics that are creating that type of damage, and it's a hydraulic wear and tear type of damage that we're doing. So we basically need hundreds of cycles of flexion, particularly compressed flexion, that will drive that fluid from the nucleus out into the outside of the disc and let it break down through the fibers of the annulus fibrosus, and then eventually get a bulge or a protrusion, some people might call it. Again, if that wear and tear continues, the mechanics of that damage continues, eventually it will then proceed into a full-blown herniation, and that's when you'll start to lose disc height as you're actually losing material, that nucleus. We're losing fluid, and you'll start to lose disc height along with it as well. So again, the most important thing to understand is having hundreds of cycles of flexion to get that damage, and if we add compression to it as well, that increases that wear and tears. It delaminates the collagen in the annulus fibrosus that surrounds the gel nucleus, because that the annulus fibrosus is actually quite a dense, tough material, but is subject to enough wear and tear, it is going to break down, and that's what it's going to lead to formation of a bulge or a herniation. Now, the good thing is that again, if you understand, or you can understand the mechanics of the injury and then work backwards to understand how you've created that damage, and you remove those causes, so again, movement and posture habits that are creating that excessive wear and tear, it will actually heal. So here's a couple of images of some disc bulges and herniations that have healed. So again, that's why it's very important we have a thorough investigation to begin with. So that can include things like MRIs and reports, but also we need the provocation testing to really start to understand the kind of movements and postures that are sensitizing you back to pain and creating the mechanical damage. So again, for bulges and herniations, we've got to look at things like compressed flexion, sometimes also like lateral compressed flexion, so people tend to buckle to one side as well, that can create problems. But again, we can zero in on that by a thorough investigation, some provocation testing, and then linking that back to the person's movement habits, which could be day-to-day stuff, or it could be how they train and do things in the gym as well. And then working out where we've got to change things to stop that damage from occurring and let things start to heal. So again, we need to be specific with the type of damage that we see. And again, in the case of flexion, in the case of bulges and herniations, it's flexion, particularly compressed flexions, and lots of cycles of it generally over time is what's going to weaken and delaminate that collagen and allow that material nucleus to work its way out and eventually come out into a full-blown herniation if given enough time and exposure. So again, be specific, understand the type of damage you've got, and then you'll understand the kind of things you need to start to avoid and be careful of to let the back pain settle.